The hospital room was quiet except for the steady rhythm of machines keeping a man alive. The air carried the faint scent of antiseptic, and the pale morning light slipped through the blinds. On the bed lay Mr. Anderson, a wealthy man who had been in a coma for months. To most, he was nothing more than a motionless body, someone beyond reach. But to Emily, the young nurse assigned to him, he was still human, still worthy of care, respect, and dignity. Every day, Emily entered the room with a gentle smile, even though she knew he could not respond. She carefully washed his face, bathed his body, and combed his hair, whispering softly as if he were awake. "Good morning, Mr. Anderson. The sun is out today. You'd like it." She spoke not just with her words, but with her presence, kindness that came from the heart. Her colleagues sometimes found it strange. They wondered why she wasted so much effort on a man who might never open his eyes again. But Emily didn't see it as wasted. She believed that kindness, even when unnoticed, mattered. "What if he can hear me? What if he feels something?" she thought. And so, she treated him as though he were simply asleep, waiting for the right moment to return. As she adjusted his blanket and gently wiped his hands, Emily never let herself forget that this man had once lived, laughed, and dreamed. To her, he was not just a patient on life support, but a soul deserving of compassion. In the stillness of that room, where most saw silence and despair, Emily gave him dignity, warmth, and hope, never knowing that her small acts of humanity would soon spark a miracle no one could have imagined. Emily's days were long and exhausting, filled with endless rounds of patients, charting, and emergencies that left little room for rest. Yet no matter how tired she was, she always made time for Mr. Anderson. Every evening, after finishing her duties, she would return to his bedside with the same gentle devotion. She bathed him carefully, brushed his hair until it looked neat, and placed a fresh blanket over him as though he were her own family. With each small act, she spoke softly to him, her voice carrying warmth and hope. "You're not alone," she would whisper, her hand resting lightly on his. "Someone cares for you, and I believe you'll come back." Her colleagues often shook their heads, some even joking that she was wasting her kindness on a man who would never respond. "He's a millionaire in a coma," one nurse remarked. "He won't even know what you're doing." But Emily never let their words change her. She smiled quietly and carried on, because deep in her heart she believed that compassion was never meaningless, even if unseen. For her, it was not about recognition or reward. It was about honoring the dignity of a life, whether conscious or not. She thought about how frightening it would be to be trapped in silence, unable to move or speak, and how much it would mean if someone simply refused to give up on you. That thought alone fueled her strength. So night after night, she stayed by his side, her soft words filling the sterile room with a trace of humanity. To Emily, kindness was like a seed planted in the dark. No one could see it grow yet, but she trusted that, one day, it would bloom in ways beyond imagination. The morning seemed no different from any other. Sunlight crept through the blinds, casting soft stripes across the bed where Mr. Anderson lay motionless. Emily entered quietly, her hands carrying the basin of warm water, just as she had done countless times before. With practiced gentleness, she dipped a cloth into the water and began wiping his face, humming softly as she often did to fill the silence. She never expected anything to change. Her care had become an act of faith, something she did without hope for recognition. But then, as the cloth brushed his cheek, something astonishing happened. His eyelids trembled. Emily froze, her heart skipping a beat. Slowly, almost painfully, Mr. Anderson's eyes opened, blinking against the light. For a moment, she thought she was imagining it, but then a tear slipped down his face. Emily gasped, her own eyes welling up. His lips parted, and in a strained, fragile whisper, he spoke, "Thank you." His voice was weak, broken from months of silence, but the words carried a weight that shook Emily to her core. Struggling, he added, "I heard every word. Every touch, kept me alive." Emily's hands trembled, and she pressed them to her chest, overwhelmed. She had spent months pouring love and care into what many thought was an empty silence, never knowing if it reached him. And now, here he was, awake, alive, and grateful. Her eyes filled with tears as she whispered back, "You came back. You really came back." In that single moment, the sterile hospital room was transformed. The steady hum of machines faded behind the miracle of human connection. What began as one nurse's quiet devotion had become the lifeline that pulled a man back from the edge of darkness. In the days that followed his awakening, the hospital buzzed with disbelief. Mr. Anderson, once thought lost to a silent coma, was slowly regaining his strength. Each day, his voice grew clearer, his spirit brighter. Emily continued her care, but now, instead of whispering to a man who could not respond, she listened to him share pieces of his life. He spoke of his wealth, his businesses, and the loneliness that had haunted him long before illness took over. "I had everything money could buy," he admitted one evening, his eyes glistening, "but when I lay here, trapped in silence, I had given up. I thought no one cared, until you." Emily sat quietly, humbled. She had never treated him differently because of who he was. To her, he had simply been a man in need of compassion. But to Mr. Anderson, her kindness had been a lifeline, the reason he found the will to fight his way back. Then, one morning, as doctors and nurses gathered for their rounds, Mr. Anderson cleared his throat and made an announcement that stunned them all. Turning to Emily, he said, "You reminded me what it means to live, what it means to be human. And I want the world to feel the same kindness you gave me." He revealed his decision: he would fund Emily's dream of opening a free community clinic, a place where those without means could find care, dignity, and hope. Gasps echoed through the room, colleagues exchanged wide-eyed glances, but Emily could only cover her mouth with trembling hands, tears streaming down her face. What had begun as small, unseen acts of love had blossomed into a gift that would change countless lives. For Mr. Anderson, gratitude became action. For Emily, her selfless heart was about to touch thousands. The grand opening of the clinic was filled with laughter, hope, and the soft murmur of grateful families. Children ran about, mothers held their babies close, and elderly men and women sat peacefully, waiting for care that had once been far beyond their reach. The sign above the entrance read, "Anderson Community Clinic," but everyone knew whose heart had built it. Emily stood outside, her eyes glistening as she watched patients walk in. No one turned away because of money. For years she had carried this dream quietly, never imagining it would come true. Now, it stood tall before her, not as a monument of wealth, but as a living testament to kindness. Beside her stood Mr. Anderson, healthier, smiling with pride. He no longer looked like the lonely man who once lay in silence. Instead, he stood as a symbol of gratitude reborn, his fortune finally serving a purpose greater than himself. "This is your legacy," he said softly to Emily, "not mine. You planted the seed. I just helped it grow." Emily's heart swelled, and for a moment, all the exhaustion, doubt, and sacrifice of those long nights felt worth it. She had once believed her kindness was falling into emptiness, but now she saw the truth. Every word, every gentle touch had built a bridge between despair and hope. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky with gold, Emily looked at the families inside and whispered to herself, "Sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness can awaken the greatest miracles." And in that moment, the story of one nurse and one patient became more than just theirs. It became a reminder to the world that compassion, no matter how small, has the power to change lives forever. Emily's story is a powerful reminder that true compassion never goes unnoticed. What began as one nurse's quiet devotion to a silent patient became the spark that changed not only his life, but the lives of countless others. Through her selflessness, Emily proved that kindness is not measured by recognition or reward, but by the courage to give when no one is watching. Mr. Anderson's miraculous recovery and his gift of gratitude showed the world that even the most hardened hearts can be transformed by love and care. Together, they built a legacy far greater than wealth, a legacy of hope, healing, and humanity. In the end, this story reminds us all that the smallest acts of kindness can create ripples of miracles, touching lives in ways we may never imagine.